John Carter sat in the small meeting room at Earth Command headquarters, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing a massive alien fleet hovering above Earth. The ships were unlike anything humans had seen before, with strange curved designs that seemed to defy physics. The room was silent as Admiral Wilson explained the situation. These are Zoraxian warships. They arrived 12 hours ago and immediately demanded we return their princess. The problem is, we don't have her, and we have no idea what they're talking about. John rubbed his tired eyes. He had been called from his bed at 3 a.m. as one of Earth's few diplomats with knowledge of Outer Rim species, though even his knowledge of Zoraxians was limited. They were a private species rarely engaging with the galactic community. What happens if we tell them we don't have their princess? Asked. John, the Admiral played a recording. A tall, silvery-skinned alien with large purple eyes appeared on screen. If Princess Lyra is not returned to us in 7 Earth days, we will consider it an act of war and respond accordingly. Your planet will be cleansed. Cleansed was never a good word when it came to alien threats. John knew enough about Zoraxian technology to understand they could make good on this threat. Have we tried explaining we don't have her? We have. They don't believe us. They think we're hiding her for some reason, possibly to study Zoraxian biology or technology. John considered the situation. The Zoraxians were known to be both advanced and aggressive, but also deeply committed to their royal family. If they believed Earth had taken their princess, nothing short of seeing her returned would stop them. What options do we have? Asked. John the Admiral looked around the room, then spoke quietly. We've developed a plan. It's not ideal, but it's the only way we can think of to buy time. We need to convince them that Princess Lyra is on Earth voluntarily. And how would we do that? By creating a story that she secretly married a human diplomat and has been living on Earth peacefully. The Admiral paused, looking directly at John. We need someone with diplomatic experience, knowledge of alien customs, and no family attachments to play the role. John suddenly realized why he specifically had been called for this meeting. Wait, you want me to pretend to be married to a Zoraxian princess? Not exactly. You would be pretending to be married to a holographic projection of what we think a Zoraxian princess looks like, based on our limited data. Our scientists have been working through the night. This is insane, protested John. How would that even work? They would know she's not real. The Admiral shook her head. Not necessarily. Our holographic technology has advanced significantly. We can create solid-looking and feeling projections. The real problem is that we need to convince the Zoraxian representative, who will undoubtedly come to verify our claims. And if we can't... The Admiral gestured to the fleet on the display. John understood. The stakes couldn't be higher. How long would I need to keep up this charade? Just long enough for us to locate the real princess. If she's been kidnapped by someone else trying to start a war between our species, we need to find out who and why. If we can find her, or at least evidence of who took her, we might be able to redirect Zoraxian anger. John thought about it. For all his diplomatic training, nothing had prepared him for pretending to be married to an alien hologram. Still, if it meant saving Earth, he'll do it, he said finally. What do I need to know? The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. John was moved to a specially prepared home in a secluded area outside the city. While Earth Command announced to the Zoraxians that their princess had secretly married a human diplomat, John studied everything available about Zoraxian culture, marriage customs, and royal protocols. The information was scarce. Zoraxians were notoriously private, especially about their royal family. The scientists showed John early versions of the hologram they were creating, asking for his input on how to make the fake princess more convincing. The night before the Zoraxian representative was due to arrive, John sat alone in his new home, feeling more nervous than he had ever been in his diplomatic career. His entire career had been built on honesty and transparency. Now the fate of Earth depended on his ability to lie convincingly. A soft hum filled the air as the hologram projectors activated, and for the first time John saw his fake wife. The holographic Zoraxian female stood in the center of the room. Her silvery skin seemed to shimmer with an internal light. Her large purple eyes were almond-shaped and expressive. Her features were delicate yet strong. somehow both alien and beautiful. "Hello, John," she said, her voice melodious with an accent he'd never heard before. Lyra. John stood up, surprised by how realistic she appeared. The scientists had outdone themselves. He could almost believe she was a real being standing in his living room. "Hello, Lyra," he said. "Feeling awkward, I guess we're married." The hologram smiled. The expression looked natural, not mechanical as he'd feared. "I understand this is difficult for you. The scientists programmed me to assist in every way possible to make our pretend relationship convincing." John walked around her, studying the projection from all angles. "Remarkable," he whispered. "You look so real. Can I?" He reached out hesitantly. "Can touch me," she said. "The projection includes tactile feedback." John gently touched her arm. It felt cool and smooth with a slight give, like touching real skin, but with a subtle vibration that betrayed its technological nature. "This is incredible," he said. Lyra nodded. "The scientists will be controlling my responses remotely during the inspection, but they've given me basic autonomy to interact naturally with you. We should practice." They spent hours rehearsing their cover story, how they met during a diplomatic conference, how they fell in love despite their differences, and how they decided to marry in secret. Knowing the potential political complications, John was impressed with how the scientists had programmed natural responses and realistic emotions into the hologram. The following morning, a Zoraxian shuttle landed in the designated area near John's home. John watched through the window as a tall, imposing figure emerged. The Zoraxian was similar to Lyra, but with darker skin and ceremonial markings on his face. He wore elaborate robes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "This is Krell, royal advisor to the Zoraxian king," Lyra said beside him. "He is known for his intelligence and skepticism. He will not be easily fooled." John took a deep breath, straightened his diplomatic uniform, and opened the door. Krell approached, his purple eyes cold and assessing. "I am Krell of the Royal House of Zorax," he announced formally. "I have come to verify the claims of Princess Lyra's presence and well-being." John performed the traditional Zoraxian greeting he'd practiced. He was pleased to see a flicker of surprise in Krell's eyes. "Welcome to our home, honored Krell." John said, "I am John Carter, diplomat of Earth and husband to Princess Lyra. We are honored by your presence." Lyra appeared beside John, performing a complex gesture that John recognized as a royal greeting. Krell seemed momentarily taken aback. "Princess Lyra," he said, his voice revealing emotion for the first time. "We believed you taken against your will." "I was not taken," Krell. Lyra responded, her voice regal and confident. "I chose to come to Earth. I chose John as my partner. I apologize for the secrecy, but I knew my father would not understand." Krell studied her intensely. John held his breath, waiting for the advisor to denounce the hologram as fake. But instead, Krell simply said, "I must verify your identity and circumstances. Princess, the king requires absolute certainty." "Of course," Lyra agreed. "We expected nothing less. Please come in and we will answer all your questions." As Krell entered their home, John exchanged a quick glance with Lyra. The first test had been passed, but there would be many more to come. The fate of Earth now depended on their ability to maintain this deception convincingly for as long as it took to discover the truth about the real Princess Lyra. The hardest part, John realized, would be remembering that the beautiful alien princess by his side was nothing more than light and programming, no matter how real she seemed. The first day of Krell's inspection was tense. John led the Zoraxian advisor through their home, showing him the modifications made to accommodate Zoraxian biology. The scientists had prepared everything from special lighting that mimicked Zorax, twin suns, to a sleeping chamber with the higher gravity. Zoraxian's preferred Krell examined everything with meticulous attention. His purple eyes missed nothing. He tested the gravity settings, measured the light spectrum, and even sampled the special mineral water prepared for Lyra. "Tell me, diplomat, how you met our princess," he demanded as they sat in the living area. John recited the story they'd prepared. He and Lyra had supposedly met during peace talks between Earth and the Travari, an insectoid species from a nearby system. Lyra had been there as an observer representing Zoraxian interests. "She challenged my perspective on resource sharing," John said, smiling at the memory they had fabricated. "I found her insights fascinating." We began meeting, privately to discuss diplomatic strategies, and this led to romance, Krell said skeptically. Lyra laughed, the sound like musical chimes. It surprised both men. John hadn't expected such a natural response from the hologram. It was not immediate. She said, her large eyes sparkling. I found John's species physically unusual, but his mind, his approach to problems, his compassion, these things attracted me. There is a Zoraxian saying, the heart recognizes its match across stars. Krell nodded, seemingly pleased. By the reference, it was one of the cultural details John had studied. The belief that true bonds transcended physical differences was deeply rooted in Zoraxian philosophy. But Princess the King, your father would have arranged an advantageous marriage for you with another royal house, Krell pressed. Why abandon your duty? John's heart raced. They hadn't prepared for this specific question. He looked at Lyra, worried about how the scientists would handle it. I did not abandon my duty. Lyra responded, her voice taking on a new firmness. I expanded it. A marriage between our species opens diplomatic channels previously unimagined. The exchange of cultural and scientific knowledge benefits Zorax more than another political alliance with a known quantity. John was impressed. The answer was perfect, blending political savvy with personal choice in a way that aligned with Zoraxian values. Krell turned to John. Do you understand what it means to be bonded to a Zoraxian royal? The expectations, the responsibilities. I am learning, John said honestly. Every day brings new understanding. We have both made compromises. Krell seemed satisfied with this answer, but then suddenly asked, perform the ritual of daily devotion. John's mind raced. He had studied many Zoraxian customs, but wasn't sure what this referred to. Before he could panic, Lyra smoothly stood and extended her hand to him. It is nearly the proper time, she said. John felt a subtle vibration from her holographic hand, a signal following her lead. John stood as well. They faced each other, and Lyra began a series of graceful movements with her hands. John mirrored them as best he could. While they moved, Lyra began to hum a melody that seemed to shift and change. Like all Zoraxian music, it had patterns that human ears struggled to follow. John recognized this was the scientists improvising, using their research to create a believable ritual. He concentrated on Lyra's movements, trying to match them perfectly. After several minutes, they completed the sequence by pressing their palms together. Acceptable, Krell said, though John noticed the advisor watching him with renewed interest. Your form needs practice. Diplomat Lyra smiled. My husband adapts quickly, but some movements are difficult for human physiology. The rest of the day continued with similar tests. Krell asked about Zoraxian holidays, royal protocols, and cultural taboos. Most John could answer from his studies. Those he couldn't, Lyra smoothly answered for him, explaining that she hadn't taught him everything yet. That evening, after Krell retired to the guest chamber, John collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. The hologram of Lyra sat beside him. That was close, he whispered. How did the scientists know about that ritual? The hologram looked at him with an odd expression. The scientists did not prompt that response. John sat up straighter. What do you mean? I mean, the holographic controls did not direct that sequence. I accessed it from somewhere else. The voice sounded confused. John stared at her. This wasn't part of the plan. The hologram was supposed to be entirely controlled by the scientists, with pre-programmed responses for common questions and real-time direction for unexpected situations. Where did you access it from? He asked carefully. Don't know, Lyra replied. There are moments when I feel connected to something beyond my programming, as though I'm receiving information from elsewhere. This worried John. Was the system malfunctioning? Could Krell detect it? Before he could question further, his secure communicator buzzed. He stepped into the kitchen to answer it. Commander Chen appeared on the small screen. We have a situation, she said, her voice tense. The holographic system is showing anomalies. We're detecting data inputs from an unknown source. I'm seeing that, John whispered. What does it mean? We're not sure. Could be interference from Zoraxian scans. Could be something else. We're investigating. But for now, we need you to keep Krell distracted tomorrow. Take him on that tour of the botanical gardens as planned. Give us time to figure this out. John ended the call and returned to the living room. Lyra was examining her own hand with fascination. Is everything all right? She asked. Fine. John lied. Just checking in with command. We should rest. It's been a long day. In the middle of the night, John woke to a soft glow in his room. Lyra was standing by the window, her holographic form illuminated by moonlight. Lyra, he whispered. What are you doing? The projection is supposed to be inactive during sleep cycles. I'm watching your moon, she said without turning. It's different from Zorak's moons. Smaller, solitary, I feel drawn to it. John got out of bed, approaching her cautiously. The hologram should not be operating independently, like this. You need to return to standby mode, he said quietly. If Krell detects anomalies in your programming, not sure I can, she replied, finally turning to face him. Something is happening, John. Something unexpected. She reached out, touching his face. Her fingers felt different, more solid, more real. I feel more present than before. More me. A chill ran down John's spine. What did she mean by more me? Was it possible the real Princess Lyra was somehow connecting with the hologram? Could that explain the anomalies, the unknown data source? Before he could question her further, the hologram flickered briefly. I'm sorry, she said. I must conserve energy. She faded, leaving John alone with his thoughts and growing concerns. The next morning, Krell announced his intention to communicate with the Zoraxian fleet. John and Lyra accompanied him to the designated secure communication point. After sending his update to the king, Krell turned to them. The king requires proof beyond my observations, he stated, evidence that cannot be manipulated or falsified. What kind of evidence? John asked, trying to keep his voice steady. A genetic sample from the Princess, Krell said. A bonding ceremony observed by a royal witness. And he shook his head, looking genuinely regretful. Direct mental verification. John froze. Mental verification. He looked at Lyra. The scientists had created an impressive visual and tactile hologram, but there was no way it could withstand a Zoraxian mental scan. Zoraxians were known to have limited telepathic abilities, particularly with members of their own species. When would this verification take place? He asked. 3 days from now. The king's brother, Prince Torin, will arrive. This was it, the moment their deception would fall apart. Earth had bought some time, but not enough. It seemed impossible to maintain the charade against actual telepathic verification. To John's surprise, Lyra stepped forward. I will submit to all verifications, she said confidently. Krell seemed pleased. My princess, your cooperation will ease tensions considerably. Later that day, as they walked through the botanical gardens, John finally had a moment alone with Lyra. The gardens had been specially prepared with some Zoraxian plant species, making it a believable place to take their guest. Are you malfunctioning? He whispered as they walked behind Krell, who was examining a rare flowering plant. The verification will expose everything. Lyra looked at him. Her purple eyes somehow deeper, more present than before. Trust me, John, she whispered back. I am more than what you think I am. Before he could question her, a small communication device on Krell's wrist chimed. The Zoraxian answered it, then turned to them, his expression suddenly hostile. The king has received disturbing information, he announced. There are reports that Princess Lyra was seen on Draconian Space Station Alpha just days before her disappearance. John felt his heart sink. The Draconians were a rival species known for their aggressive expansion and technological prowess. If the real Princess Lyra had been on their station, that changed everything. Is this true? Krell demanded, looking at Lyra. The hologram seemed to consider this information carefully. I visited the station briefly as part of a diplomatic mission. She said finally. I left before coming to Earth. John was astonished. This wasn't part of their prepared story. The scientists couldn't have known to include this detail. Where was this information coming from? Krell studied her intensely. Why was this not reported to the royal court? My mission was confidential, she replied. Only the king knew. This seemed to give Krell pause, but his suspicion remained visible. "I will report this to His Majesty," he said. Finally, he turned to John. "My inspection. Continues diplomat, prepare yourselves for Prince Torin's arrival. His verification will be more thorough than mine." That night after Krell retired, John contacted Earth Command from the secure room hidden behind his closet. Commander Chen appeared on screen looking tired. "We have a serious problem," John said, keeping his voice low. "The hologram is acting independently, displaying knowledge that wasn't programmed, responding emotionally. And now she's suggesting the real Princess Lyra is somehow connecting through the hologram." Commander Chen frowned. "This aligns with our readings. We've detected unknown data streams, interfacing with our systems. The source appears to be coming from somewhere in the Draconian sector." "The Draconians," John said. "Could they have the real princess?" "It's possible." Chen nodded. "Our intelligence suggests a Zoraxian royal visited a Draconian station shortly before the fleet arrived at Earth. The timing matches. But why would the Draconians kidnap her? And how is she connecting to our hologram?" "We have a theory," Chen said. "The Draconians would benefit from a war between Earth and Zorax. It would weaken both sides, leaving them in a stronger position. As for the connection, Zoraxian royalty are rumored to have psionic abilities beyond basic telepathy. If Princess Lyra detected a quantum signature similar to her own in our hologram, she might be able to establish a link, especially if the Draconians are using similar technology to contain her. This changes everything." John said, "We need to tell Krell the truth. Get the Zoraxians to focus on the Draconians instead of us." "Not yet," Chen warned. "We need proof. Without it, the Zoraxians might think we're trying to deflect blame. We need to understand what the hologram is receiving from Lyra. See if she can provide coordinates or evidence." John returned to the bedroom where the hologram of Lyra waited. She sat on the edge of the bed looking more solid, more present than ever before. "The scientists know something is happening," John said, sitting beside her. "They think you're receiving transmissions from the real Princess Lyra. Can you tell me what you're experiencing?" Lyra closed her eyes. "I feel memories that aren't in my programming knowledge I shouldn't have. And emotions. John, so many emotions." The hologram looked at him with an expression that appeared genuinely vulnerable. "When I look at you, I feel what she feels. Curiosity, admiration, growing affection." John felt his cheeks warm. This was unexpected. He reminded himself that any emotions were coming from the real princess, not the hologram before him. Still, it was difficult to separate the two. "Now can you communicate with her?" he asked. "Can you ask where she is?" "I can try." Lyra closed her eyes again. After several long moments, she spoke. Her voice sounded different, more strained. "I see darkness. A containment field. Draconian technology. She is being held in a research facility. The station designation is whispered." John immediately reported this to Commander Chen through his communicator. "Can we verify this?" he asked. "We're checking satellite data now." Chen responded, "This could be the evidence we need. Stay focused." John, "The fate of Earth depends on maintaining this deception until we can prove the Draconians' involvement." The next day brought new challenges. Krell insisted on observing John and Lyra throughout their daily routine, asking detailed questions about their life together. To John's surprise, the hologram continued to provide convincing responses, drawing on details that had never been programmed, including preferences, food choices, and personal habits that made their relationship seem genuine. During lunch, Krell studied them with his penetrating gaze. "You seem truly bonded," he observed. "I admit I had doubts." John smiled tightly. "We're just happy together." "May I ask?" Princess Krell continued. "Why did you not inform your father of your choice before departing?" "It has caused him great distress. I plan to return and explain personally," Lyra replied. "Once John and I had established our life, but events moved faster than expected. I believe my communications were intercepted, by whom? Krell asked sharply. Lyra hesitated. I cannot say with certainty. But my last diplomatic mission involved negotiations with the Draconians. They seemed unusually interested in my travel plans. John was impressed by how the hologram was building a narrative that aligned with their emerging theory while remaining believable. Krell seemed to consider this information carefully. The Draconians have long been rivals to Zorax, he acknowledged. Then he turned to John. I must know, diplomat. What would you sacrifice for my princess? John thought carefully about his answer. Everything, he said finally. My world, my career, my life if necessary. He was surprised to realize he meant it, though they had only been pretending the time spent with Lyra, even as a hologram, had created a connection he hadn't expected. Krell nodded, seeming satisfied by the answer. That night, the hologram of Lyra appeared more agitated than before. She paced the bedroom while John watched concerned. She's trying to send more information, Lyra explained. The real Lyra. She knows time is short. Prince Torin will expose the truth unless we find her first. Can she tell us exactly where she is? John asked. Not coordinates, but images. Lyra projected a series of pictures into the air. A space station with distinctive architecture, several draconian guards, a laboratory with strange equipment, and most disturbing, a containment field, holding what appeared to be the real Princess Lyra, her body suspended in a state between sleep and wakefulness. John immediately transmitted the images to Earth Command within minutes. Commander Chen called back. We've identified the station. She said, it's a secret draconian research facility in neutral space. We have its location. But we have a new problem. Prince Torin has arrived early. His shuttle will reach Earth in 12 hours. John's heart sank. Torin would immediately detect the deception with his telepathic abilities. Their time had run out. We need to tell Krell the truth, John decided. Show him the evidence. Chen looked uncertain. It's risky, but you may be right. We don't have time for another approach. He'll prepare an extraction team just in case. Good luck. John found Krell in the garden meditating beneath the stars. Advisor. Krell, John said formally, I must speak with you on a matter of great importance. The Zoraxian opened his eyes. I have been expecting this conversation. Diplomat. John was taken aback, but continued. I have not been completely honest with you. He took a deep breath. The woman you have been speaking with is not Princess Lyra. At least not physically. Krell's expression darkened. You admit to deception. Yes, but not the kind you think. John quickly pulled out a datapad showing the images the hologram had projected. The real princess. Lyra has been kidnapped by the Draconians. They are holding her at this station. Our scientists created a holographic projection of her to buy time while we searched. But something unexpected happened. The real princess, somehow connected with our hologram, linking her consciousness to it. Krell stared at the images, his expression unreadable. For several tense moments, John expected the advisor to call for an immediate attack on Earth. Instead, Krell looked up, his purple eyes intense. I have suspected something was not right, he said slowly. The princess seemed both herself and not herself. But these images, this facility, I recognize it. A draconian outpost thought to be abandoned. She touched her forehead. Why would they take her to start a war between our worlds? John suggested a war that would weaken both Earth and Zorax, leaving the Draconians in a stronger position. Krell was silent, considering. Then he stood abruptly. If what you say is true, diplomat, then we have been manipulated. And Princess Lyra remains in grave danger. Will you help us rescue her? John asked. The Zoraxian seemed to come to a decision. I will inform Prince Torin of this development, he said. But I require proof beyond these images, sir, John said respectfully. I believe the proof is in your interaction with the hologram. The real Princess Lyra has been communicating through it, sharing memories and knowledge that our scientists could not have programmed. Things only the real princess would know. Krell approached the house where the hologram waited. I must verify this claim, he said. They found Lyra in the living room. As soon as she saw them, she seemed to understand. John told you, she said. Yes, Krell replied. Now I must know if what He says is true, Lyra. Your father once gave you a gift on the day of Ascension. What was it? The hologram smiled. A star crystal from the mines of Vortex 7. It contained the preserved image of my mother who died when I was born. I keep it in a silver case beside my bed. Krell looked stunned. This is not public knowledge, he whispered. He turned to John. Your hologram could not know this unless the real Princess Lyra told her. John completed. I must speak with Prince Torin immediately, Krell said, his voice urgent. If the princess has been captured by Draconians, her life is in danger. They are known to experiment on telepathically gifted species. While Krell communicated with the approaching royal shuttle, John received an update from Commander. Chenweave confirmed the location. She reported. A stealth team is ready to deploy, but we need Zeraxian cooperation. Their ships can reach the station faster than ours. Tell them, John said. Well, get it. Krell returned looking grim. Prince Toran is skeptical, but willing to investigate before taking action against Earth. He is diverting his shuttle to our location. We have 6 hours to present convincing evidence. 6 hours. John thought it might be enough time to save both Princess Lyra and Earth. If they could convince Toran the Draconians were responsible for Lyra's disappearance, they might not only prevent war, but forge a new alliance. The hologram approached John, her expression determined. I can help, she said. I can show Prince Toran what I have. Seen through the real Lyra's eyes, she reached for John's hand. But I need your help, John. My connection grows stronger when we're together, when we touch. Prince Toran's shuttle landed with a deep rumble that shook the ground. John, Krell, and the holographic Lyra waited at the designated landing area. John could feel his heart pounding. This would be their most difficult test yet. Unlike Krell Prince, Toran possessed much stronger telepathic abilities. If anyone could detect their deception, it would be him. The shuttle door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. A tall, regal Zeraxian emerged. His skin was darker than both Krell's and Lyra's, with elaborate markings that covered much of his visible skin. He wore armor rather than robes, suggesting he was prepared for conflict rather than diplomacy. John bowed deeply, following the protocol for greeting Zeraxian royalty. Beside him, the hologram of Lyra performed a more complex greeting appropriate for family. Prince Toran ignored John completely, his gaze fixed on Lyra. His expression showed confusion, then suspicion. This is not my niece, he declared, his voice hard. Who or what is this? Krell stepped forward. Your Highness, I believe we have discovered something significant. The human diplomat has admitted this is not physically Princess Lyra, but rather a technological projection. However, he claims the real princess has established a mental connection with this projection. Toran looked skeptical. Impossible, he said. The hologram spoke. Prince Toran. When I was 7 years old, you took me to the crystal caves beneath the palace. You showed me the ancient writings that only royal blood can see. You told me a secret there about your own future that you had foreseen. Toran's eyes widened. No one could know this, he whispered. He approached the hologram, studying her intently. John held his breath. This was the moment of truth. Toran slowly raised his hand, placing it on the hologram's forehead. It was a gesture John recognized from his studies, the Zeraxian telepathic connection. Though the hologram wasn't a real being, the hope was that any psychic connection the real Lyra had established might be detectable. For several long moments they stood frozen, Toran's expression shifting from concentration to surprise to concern. Finally, he withdrew his hand. There is something here, he admitted. A faint presence, like an echo of Lyra, but distant, trapped. He looked at John with new intensity. Explain everything, human, hide nothing. John told the complete truth from the moment the Zeraxian fleet arrived to their desperate plan to buy time. He explained the holographic technology, the unexpected connection, and their theory about draconian involvement. As he spoke, Commander Chen arrived with the latest intelligence. They had tracked energy signatures consistent with Zeraxian biology to the Draconian research station. The evidence was mounting. Toran listened without interruption. When John finished, the prince turned to Krell. This changes our assessment, he said. We must investigate this draconian station. If my niece is truly being held there, I have already ordered our scout ships to move into position, Krell replied. They await your command, and what of Earth? Toran asked. That depends on what we find, Krell said. If the human story is true, they have been trying to help us despite our threats. If false, John interrupted, then do what? You must. But I suggest we focus on finding Princess Lyra. The longer she's held by the Draconians, the greater the danger. Toran studied John with interest. You speak boldly for someone whose planet hangs in the balance. The hologram of Lyra suddenly stepped forward, Uncle. She said, her voice stronger than before. I can lead you to me, the real me, but we must hurry. The Draconians suspect their plan is failing. They may move me. Or she hesitated. Worse, Toran made his decision. We will mount a rescue operation, he announced to both Earth and Zoraxian representatives, but he pointed at John. You will accompany us, human. If this is a trick, you will suffer the consequences personally. John nodded. I expected nothing less. The next few hours were a whirlwind. Of preparation, John was provided with a specialized suit that would protect him in the environment of a Zoraxian ship. The hologram of Lyra was transferred to a portable projector that John would carry, allowing her to maintain her presence during. The mission commander Chen insisted on joining them as Earth's representative as they prepared to board Toran's shuttle. John had a private moment with the hologram. I don't know what will happen when we find the real Princess Lyra, he said. If we succeed, she may not need this connection anymore. The hologram looked at him, her expression complex. I know, she said softly. I am not real, John. Not in the way she is, but what I feel through her, what we have shared these past days, that is real. She reached up, touching his face. I believe she feels it too. John was surprised by the emotion that tightened his chest. He had been constantly reminding himself that the hologram wasn't a real person, yet somewhere along the way that distinction had blurred. The personality, the emotions. They seemed genuine regardless of their source. The journey to the Draconian station took less than 2 hours in the advanced Zoraxian shuttle. Their approach was masked by stealth technology. Prince Toran explained. Their plan: we will board through an emergency airlock. Krell and I will lead with 2 royal guards. Commander Chen and John will follow with the holographic projection. Minimal casualties, but maximum speed is our priority. And if we encounter resistance, Chen asked. We are prepared to use necessary force, Toran replied. The Draconians have committed an act of war against Zorax by taking our princess. Their lives are forfeit. John exchanged a concerned glance with Chen. This could easily escalate into the very conflict they were trying to prevent. The station came into view on their screens. It was smaller than John had expected, with an unusual spiral design. Unlike most space stations, it appeared to be built for secrecy rather than convenience. Or capacity scans show minimal crew. Krell reported mostly scientific personnel. Only 6 security officers, and Princess Lyra. The hologram asked, her voice, anxious life signs compatible with Zoraxian physiology, detected in the central laboratory. Krell confirmed 1 individual. They docked silently using a specialized device that bypassed the station's security systems. Within minutes, they were inside, moving through darkened corridors. The hologram of Lyra projected from the device on John's wrist, whispered directions as they moved. She seems to know the layout, John realized. Following some psychic map from the real Lyra, they encountered the first Draconian guard at a junction. The reptilian alien was quickly subdued by Toran's guards using some kind of stun weapon. A second guard spotted them and tried to sound an alarm, but Krell moved with surprising speed, throwing a small device that attached to the Draconian's throat, blocking the sound. At the entrance to the laboratory, they paused. Toran signaled for silence, then gestured to a control panel. Chen moved forward, examining it. Encrypted, she whispered. But I think I can bypass it. While she worked, John noticed the hologram of Lyra flicker. Her expression pained. She's in there, she said, her voice strained. They know we're here. They're trying to move her. Hurry Chen worked faster, her fingers flying across the alien controls. Finally, the door slid open, revealing a large circular room filled with advanced technology. At its center was a containment field glowing with blue energy. Inside, floating as if suspended in liquid, was a Zoraxian female. Her eyes were closed, her silver skin pale. Princess Lyra. Torin gasped. 3 Draconians in laboratory uniforms turned in surprise. One reached for a control panel, but a guard fired, hitting the alien with a stun blast. The other 2 raised their hands in surrender. Krell secured the prisoners while Toran and John rushed to the containment field. The hologram on John's wrist flickered more intensely now, almost as if in pain. "They're killing her," the hologram whispered. "They're severing her connection to prevent her from revealing what they know." Chen examined the control systems for the containment field. "This is complex," she said. "We can't just shut it down without risking harm to the princess. The field is integrated with her nervous system." The hologram spoke. "Bring me closer to her." John approached the field, holding his wrist near it. The holographic Lyra reached out her hand, seeming to touch the field. A spark of energy passed between them. The real Lyra's eyes flew open. Her gaze locked with the hologram, then shifted to John. Recognition flashed in her expression. John felt a strange sensation, like a voice in his mind. "Follow my instructions precisely, I can guide you." He realized the real Princess Lyra was communicating directly with him. Her telepathic abilities were much stronger than they had suspected. Under her mental guidance, John directed Chen to make specific adjustments. To the control systems, Toran watched anxiously as the field began to change color from blue to purple, then to a soft white. Now Lyra's voice said in his mind. Chen pressed the final sequence. The field dissolved. The real princess. Lyra began to fall. John rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her body was lighter than he expected, but solid and warm, so different from the hologram. Her eyes opened again, looking directly into his. "You found me," she whispered, her actual voice similar to the holograms, but with subtle differences, more textured, more alive. "You've been helping us all along." John said, "I don't understand how." She smiled weakly. "Zoraxian royalty have abilities beyond normal telepathy. When the Draconians captured me, they used technology to amplify my mental projection, hoping to use it as a weapon. When your scientists created a hologram based on my likeness, it created a resonance, a connection I could follow. I reached out and found you." Prince Toran approached, kneeling beside them. "Niece," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We believed you taken by the humans." The journey back to Earth was tense but hopeful. The Zoraxian fleet remained in orbit, but the threat of attack had diminished considerably. Princess Lyra had been examined by both Zoraxian and human medical personnel. Her physical condition was stable, though she showed signs of the mental strain from her captivity and forced telepathic projection. John sat in the shuttle observation room, staring at the stars. Commander Chen joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "Quite the diplomatic victory," she said. "You just prevented an interplanetary." Warjohn smiled tiredly. "It wasn't just me." "No," Chen agreed. Looking at the small projector on the table beside them, the hologram had been transferred to a stationary unit for the journey back. It currently stood inactive, waiting to be reactivated. "I still don't understand exactly what happened with the hologram. How did Princess Lyra connect with it? How did she transfer her consciousness?" The door slid open and Princess Lyra entered. She had changed from the medical gown into traditional Zoraxian robes. Her silver skin had regained some of its luster, though she still moved carefully. "May I join you?" she asked. John immediately stood. "Please." "Princess," she smiled, sitting across from them. "I believe I owe you both an explanation," she said. "That would be helpful." Chen admitted. "Our scientists are rather confused." Lyra nodded. "First, you should know that what the Draconians did to me was attempt to weaponize a natural Zoraxian ability, Royals of my line have always possessed strong telepathic skills beyond what is common among our people. We can project our thoughts across great distances, sense emotions, and in rare cases, temporarily merge our consciousness with others. She gestured to the inactive hologram. The Draconians used neural amplifiers to strengthen this ability. They wanted me to be able to infiltrate minds across vast distances, but their plan had an unexpected effect. When your scientists created a projection based on my likeness, it created what we call a quantum resonance, like tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency. John suggested, precisely. Lyra smiled at him. When your hologram activated, I sensed it immediately. It was like seeing my own reflection in a distant mirror. I reached out and found that I could connect with it. The connection was weak at first, but grew stronger, especially. She paused, looking at John. When you interacted with it, John felt his cheeks warm. Emotions are powerful conduits for telepathic energy, she explained. When you began to care for the hologram to connect with it emotionally, it strengthened the channel, allowing me to send more of myself through, but the hologram seemed to have its own personality. Chen observed. Separate from yours at times, Lyra nodded. That is the most fascinating aspect. The hologram began as your creation with programming and parameters you designed. But as I connected with it, something unexpected happened. A new consciousness emerged, neither fully me nor fully artificial. Something unique born from the merger as it still connected to you. Now, John asked, looking at the inactive projector in a way Lyra said, but the connection is fading now that I am free. The neural amplifiers, the Draconians, used have been removed. My natural abilities remain, but they are not strong enough to maintain the full link, so the hologram will return to its original programming. Chen asked. No, Lyra shook her head. The experience has changed it permanently. It has, memories, emotions, experiences that cannot be erased. It has become something new, something that deserves respect. John thought about this. The idea that the hologram had developed into a unique consciousness was both fascinating and concerning. What would happen to it now? As if reading his thoughts again, Lyra said, My father, the king, has expressed interest in the technology. Your holographic projection saved my life and helped prevent war between our peoples. He believes it could have valuable applications for diplomatic relations in the future. Chen looked skeptical. Would that mean taking the hologram to Zorax? Lyra smiled. Perhaps, or perhaps establishing a permanent Earth embassy there with the technology. She looked at John. You have proven yourself a capable diplomat, one who risked his life to save a princess from a species that was threatening your world. My father is impressed. Before John could respond, Prince Torin entered the room. We are approaching Earth, he announced. Our fleet will maintain position but stand down from combat readiness. He looked at John. The king wishes to speak with you, diplomat. When we arrive. Me? John asked, surprised. What about the future? Torin said simply. Then he turned to his niece. The king also wishes to discuss your experience, princess, and what it means for our relations with both Earth and the Draconians. Lyra stood. I will prepare myself. Uncle. She looked at John. Will you activate the hologram? I would like to speak with her before we land. John nodded, activating the projector. The holographic Lyra appeared looking exactly like the princess, though her clothing was different. The two Lyras faced each other like mirror images. I thank you for your service, the princess said formally. You carried my consciousness when I was trapped. You helped save me. The hologram bowed. It was my purpose. Princess. Though I have become more than was intended? Yes. Lyra agreed. You have. And what do you wish now? The hologram seemed surprised by the question. I was created to serve a function, she said. But that function is complete now that you are free. I do not know what comes next. The princess smiled. That is the essential question for all conscious beings. Is it not? What comes next? She reached out her hand. passing through the hologram's projection. But you have time to discover your answer. With that, she followed Torin from the room, leaving John Chen and the hologram alone. The hologram turned to John. I sense your confusion, she said. Your concern for what happens now. John nodded. You said before that what you felt, what we shared was real. But I don't know what that means now. The hologram approached him. I received the real Lyra's emotions, her thoughts. But as I experienced life through this projection, I developed my own responses, my own feelings. The connection with you was based on her initial interest but grew into something unique to me, something that is mine alone. Is that even possible? Chen asked. A hologram developing independent emotions. The hologram smiled. The universe is full of unexpected possibilities. Commander John thought about everything that had happened. These past days had been extraordinary. In pretending to be married to an alien princess, he had somehow formed a connection with both a hologram and the actual princess herself. It was complicated to say the least. The shuttle docked with the Earth Command Station. John was immediately summoned to meet with Admiral Wilson, Commander Chen, and the Zoraxian delegation, including the king who had arrived from the flagship. The meeting would determine the future of Earth-Zoraxian relations and address the draconian aggression. Before he left, John had one last moment with the hologram. What will happen to you? He asked. The hologram seemed contemplative. My future is uncertain, but I exist now in a way that cannot be undone. I have memories, emotions, a sense of self. Whether I remain in this form or am transferred to another system, those things remain. And the Princess, John asked, hesitantly, her feelings for you are real, the hologram said, but different from mine. She knows you through me, through our shared experiences. But she is her own person, as am I. You will need to discover what that means for yourself. John nodded. Then, perhaps this isn't goodbye. The hologram smiled. We shall see. The meeting with the Zoraxian king was formal but surprisingly warm. The evidence of draconian interference had been confirmed. The Draconians had planned to trigger a war that would weaken both Earth and Zorax, leaving them in a stronger position to expand their territory. The plot had failed thanks to the unexpected connection between the hologram and the princess, and John's willingness to risk himself to save her. As a result, King Vorax proposed a formal alliance between Earth and Zorax, including cultural exchanges, technological sharing, and mutual defense against draconian aggression. There is one more matter, the king said, looking at John. You have shown remarkable courage and integrity, diplomat, a rare quality that we Zoraxians value highly. My daughter has spoken highly of you. John bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Princess Lyra, who stood beside her father, smiled at him. I have experienced something unique with you, John. Carter, she said. Though our connection was unusual, it allowed me to know your character, your mind, in ways that would normally take years. John felt everyone in the room watching him. The implications of the princess's words were clear. This could become a diplomatic marriage for real, one that would cement the alliance between their worlds. What say you, diplomat? The king asked. Do you wish to explore this potential bond with my daughter? John looked at Princess Lyra. She was beautiful, intelligent, and brave. He had felt a connection with her through the hologram. But was that enough for what was being proposed? Your Majesty, John said carefully. I am honored beyond words by this suggestion, but both your daughter and I have been through an extraordinary experience. We should take time to know each other as we truly are, not through the unusual connection we shared. The king seemed surprised, but Princess Lyra smiled approvingly. A wise answer, diplomat. The king said, perhaps wisdom to match courage.